Hey everyone, tonight we're diving into something that will completely change how you see our planet. Picture this, a world where 96% of all life has been wiped out. The oceans are acidic, the atmosphere is toxic, volcanic eruptions are tearing the landscape apart. Everything you know about life on Earth has been reduced to ash and silence. This isn't science fiction. This actually happened. And somehow, impossibly, life came back stronger than ever. Now, before we get started, take a moment to like this video if you're ready to have your mind blown, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what you think makes life so incredibly resilient. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us for these deep dives into Earth's most incredible mysteries. Tonight, we're exploring one of the most mind-bending phenomena in our planet's history. Why does life on Earth keep bouncing back from disasters that should have ended everything forever? We're talking about mass extinctions so severe they make today's worst environmental disasters look like minor hiccups. Yet here we are, surrounded by an explosion of biodiversity that defies every prediction of doom. Over the next hour, I'm going to walk you through the most devastating events our planet has ever experienced and reveal the hidden mechanisms that allow life to not just survive, but to emerge from catastrophe more diverse and resilient than before. We'll meet the unlikely heroes of recovery, explore the secret strategies that keep life going when everything else fails, and uncover why scientists believe that mass extinction might actually be one of evolution's most powerful tools. But first, let me give you some context that will make everything we discuss tonight even more incredible. Earth has been hosting life for roughly 4.5 billion years. In that unimaginably long stretch of time, our planet has witnessed destruction on a scale that would make Hollywood disaster movies seem quaint. We're talking about events so catastrophic that they've earned names like the Great Dying and the End of the World as we know it. Here's what makes this story so remarkable. Despite facing extinction-level events at least 5 times in its history, life on Earth has never actually been extinguished. Not once. Every single time our planet has been pushed to the absolute brink of biological collapse, something extraordinary happens. Life finds a way. The numbers alone should give you chills. Scientists estimate that roughly 98% of all species that have ever existed on Earth are now extinct. Think about that for a moment. Nearly every single life form that has ever crawled, swum, flown, or photosynthesized on this planet is gone forever. Yet somehow, the remaining 2% didn't just hang on by a thread. They exploded into the incredible diversity we see today. This isn't just a story about survival. It's a story about transformation, adaptation, and the hidden resilience mechanisms that operate at every level of life, from individual organisms to entire ecosystems. Tonight, we're going to explore how a planet that has been repeatedly hammered by cosmic catastrophes keeps producing new forms of life that are often more complex and successful than what came before. Let's start with the most devastating event in Earth's known history. 251 million years ago, something happened that came closer to ending life on our planet than any other event we know of. Scientists call it the Permian-Triassic extinction, but it's earned a much more ominous nickname, the Great Dying. During this catastrophic period, an estimated 90 to 96% of marine species vanished from the fossil record. On land, roughly 70% of terrestrial vertebrates disappeared. Entire ecosystems collapsed worldwide. Communities that had taken millions of years to develop were restructured almost overnight. The few organisms that managed to survive found themselves struggling in a world that had become almost unrecognizable. What caused this near-total collapse of life on Earth? The evidence points to a perfect storm of catastrophic events. Massive volcanic eruptions in what is now Siberia pumped enormous quantities of carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and other toxic gases into the atmosphere. The climate became dramatically warmer. Ocean chemistry changed so drastically that vast areas became acidic and oxygen depleted. It was as if Earth itself had turned against the life it had been nurturing for billions of years. But here's where the story becomes absolutely incredible. Despite this devastation, life didn't just survive the Permian-Triassic extinction. It came back. And when it came back, it didn't just limp along as a shadow of its former self. Instead, it embarked on one of the most remarkable recovery stories in the history of our planet. The recovery process reveals something profound about how life operates at the deepest level. After the initial catastrophe, the first organisms to bounce back weren't the most complex or sophisticated species. Instead, recovery was led by what scientists call disaster taxa. These were hardy, adaptable organisms that could thrive in the harsh conditions left behind by the extinction event. One of the most famous examples of a disaster taxon is a creature called Lystrosaurus. Before the Permian-Triassic extinction, Lystrosaurus was just another member of a diverse community of land animals. But in the aftermath of the Great Dying, something extraordinary happened. With most of its competitors and predators gone, Lystrosaurus didn't just survive. It absolutely dominated. For a period in the early Triassic, approximately 95% of all land vertebrates belong to the genus Lystrosaurus. This is the only time in Earth's history that a single genus of land animal has achieved such overwhelming dominance. These squat, barrel-shaped creatures with their distinctive tusks became the most successful land animals on the planet, not through superior strength or intelligence, but through their remarkable ability to adapt to post-apocalyptic conditions. What made Lystrosaurus so successful reveals crucial insights into how life recovers from catastrophe. These animals were excellent burrowers, which may have helped them cope with the toxic atmosphere and extreme temperature fluctuations that followed the extinction event. Some evidence suggests they could even enter a state similar to hibernation, allowing them to survive extended periods of environmental stress. But perhaps most importantly, Lystrosaurus was a generalist. While more specialized animals required specific environmental conditions to thrive, Lystrosaurus could make do with whatever was available. When the world changed dramatically, this flexibility became their greatest asset. The story of Lystrosaurus illustrates a fundamental principle of post-extinction recovery. In the immediate aftermath of catastrophe, the meek really do inherit the earth. Specialized organisms that had dominated stable ecosystems found themselves unable to cope with rapidly changing conditions. Meanwhile, humble generalists like Lystrosaurus suddenly found themselves with access to ecological opportunities that had been closed to them for millions of years. This pattern repeats throughout Earth's history. After each major extinction event, disaster taxa emerge to fill the ecological void left by more specialized organisms. These hardy survivors then undergo rapid evolutionary diversification, spreading into new habitats and developing new adaptations. Over time, some of their descendants become the specialized organisms that will dominate the next stable period in Earth's history. The recovery from the Permian-Triassic extinction wasn't quick by human standards. Recent research indicates that it took between 4 and 6 million years for recovery to truly begin, and some estimates suggest that complete ecological recovery didn't occur until 30 million years after the initial extinction event. But, from the perspective of Earth's 4.5 billion year history, even 30 million years represents remarkably rapid healing. During this recovery period, something fascinating happened. The survivors didn't just replace what had been lost, they created entirely new forms of ecological organization. New types of predators evolved, new feeding strategies emerged, entirely new body plans appeared in the fossil record. The post-extinction world wasn't just a rebuilt version of what came before, it was something genuinely new. This pattern of creative destruction and renewal has played out repeatedly throughout Earth's history. Each of the big 5 mass extinctions, events where more than 75% of Earth's species disappeared, was followed by periods of remarkable evolutionary innovation. The extinction that ended the age of dinosaurs 66 million years ago paved the way for the rise of mammals. Earlier extinctions eliminated dominant marine groups and made space for entirely new forms of ocean life. What's truly remarkable is that each recovery period has generally produced more diverse and complex ecosystems than what existed before the extinction event. It's as if mass extinctions, despite their devastating immediate effects, actually serve as engines of evolutionary creativity. They clear away established ecological relationships and create opportunities for life to explore new possibilities. This pattern suggests something profound about the nature of life on Earth. Rather than being a fragile phenomenon that exists despite the hostile conditions of our planet, life appears to be fundamentally resilient. It has built-in mechanisms that allow it to not just survive catastrophic disruption, but to use that disruption as a springboard for new forms of organization and complexity. The mechanisms underlying this resilience operate at multiple levels. At the molecular level, life's fundamental chemistry is remarkably robust. The basic processes of metabolism, reproduction, and information storage that characterize living systems can function under an extraordinarily wide range of environmental conditions. This biochemical resilience is perhaps best illustrated by organisms called extremophiles. These remarkable life forms thrive in conditions that would be instantly lethal to most familiar organisms. Some live in water so acidic it would dissolve metal. Others flourish at temperatures that would boil water. Still others survive in environments with radiation levels that would quickly kill any complex organism. Extremophiles aren't just curiosities hiding in remote corners of our planet. They represent a vast and diverse domain of life that may actually be more abundant than the familiar plants and animals we see around us every day. Scientists have found thriving microbial communities in places that seem utterly hostile to life, deep in the Earth's crust, in the crushing depths of ocean trenches, in Antarctic ice, and in the highly radioactive ruins of nuclear reactors. The existence of extremophiles reveals something crucial about life's fundamental nature. The conditions we think of as necessary for life, moderate temperatures, neutral pH, protection from radiation, represent just a tiny fraction of the environments where life can actually exist. The true limits of life are far broader than anything we experience in our everyday existence. This biochemical flexibility provides the foundation for life's ability to survive mass extinction events. Even when surface conditions become utterly hostile to complex organisms, microbial life can often find refuge in more protected environments. Deep underground, in ocean sediments, or in other sheltered locations, these microscopic survivors maintain the spark of life through even the most severe catastrophes. But survival is only the first step in recovery. For life to truly bounce back from mass extinction, surviving organisms must be able to diversify and spread into new ecological roles. This is where another remarkable feature of life comes into play: its extraordinary capacity for evolutionary innovation. Capacity for evolutionary innovation. Evolution doesn't just replace what's been lost, it experiments, it innovates, it creates entirely new solutions to the challenges of existence. And nowhere is this creative power more evident than in the periods following mass extinction events. Consider what happened after the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction 66 million years ago. When the asteroid impact and its aftermath eliminated non-avian dinosaurs, it didn't just create empty space in terrestrial ecosystems. It fundamentally rewrote the rules of what it meant to be a large land animal. Mammals, which had existed alongside dinosaurs for over 100 million years but remained mostly small and nocturnal, suddenly found themselves in a world of unprecedented opportunity. The mammalian radiation that followed represents one of evolution's most spectacular success stories. Within just 10 million years, mammals had diversified into forms that would have seemed impossible during the age of dinosaurs. Some became massive browsers weighing several tons. Others took to the air, developing powered flight independently from birds and bats that came later. Still others returned to the oceans, eventually giving rise to whales that would become the largest animals ever known to have lived on Earth. This explosive diversification reveals a crucial principle about how life recovers from catastrophe. Extinction events don't just eliminate species, they eliminate entire ways of making a living. When dinosaurs disappeared, they took with them not just individual species, but entire ecological strategies that had dominated terrestrial ecosystems for over 150 million years. The elimination of these established strategies created what scientists call ecological release. Suddenly, surviving groups could explore adaptive possibilities that had been closed to them for millions of years. The mammals that inherited the post-dinosaur world didn't simply grow larger versions of their small, shrew-like ancestors. They evolved entirely new body plans, new feeding strategies, and new ways of interacting with their environment. Some developed complex social behaviors. Others evolved sophisticated sensory systems. Still others pioneered new forms of parental care that allowed them to raise offspring in ways that would have been impossible in a dinosaur-dominated world. But mammals weren't the only beneficiaries of the end Cretaceous extinction. Birds, which are actually dinosaurs themselves, underwent their own remarkable evolutionary expansion. Freed from competition with their non-avian relatives, birds diversified into an astounding array of forms. Some became massive flightless predators. Others evolved into tiny nectar feeders. Still others developed the ability to dive deep underwater or soar across vast ocean distances. The pattern is always the same. Extinction creates opportunity. Opportunity drives innovation. Innovation leads to diversity that often exceeds what existed before the catastrophe. It's as if mass extinctions serve as a reset button for evolution, clearing away established patterns and allowing life to explore entirely new possibilities. This process isn't random or chaotic. It follows predictable patterns that reveal deep truths about how biological systems organize themselves. In the immediate aftermath of extinction events, disaster taxa dominate not because they're superior organisms, but because they're the only ones capable of surviving in the harsh post-extinction environment. These hardy generalists serve as biological placeholders, maintaining ecosystem functions while conditions gradually stabilize. As environmental conditions improve, the descendants of disaster taxa begin to diversify. Some remain generalists, but others start to specialize for particular ways of life. This specialization process, known as adaptive radiation, is where the real magic happens. Within relatively short geological timeframes, single lineages can give rise to dozens or even hundreds of new species, each adapted for specific ecological roles. The classic example of adaptive radiation comes from Darwin's finches in the Galapagos Islands. A single ancestral species that arrived on these volcanic islands diversified into more than a dozen distinct species, each with beaks shaped for different types of food. Some evolved massive beaks for cracking hard seeds. Others developed delicate, curved beaks for extracting nectar from flowers. Still others evolved sharp, pointed beaks for catching insects. But what's remarkable is that this same pattern of adaptive radiation occurs on a much larger scale following mass extinction events. The mammals that diversified after the dinosaur extinction, the marine organisms that flourished after the Permian-Triassic catastrophe, and the countless other groups that have bounced back from extinction all follow similar patterns of rapid diversification into multiple ecological roles. This predictability suggests that life's recovery from catastrophe isn't just a matter of luck. Instead, it reflects fundamental properties of how biological systems organize themselves. Life appears to have built-in mechanisms that promote rapid diversification when ecological opportunities become available. One of these mechanisms involves the relationship between genetic variation and environmental change. Most species maintain far more genetic diversity than they actually need under current conditions. This hidden genetic variation stored in populations like a biological insurance policy, becomes crucial during times of environmental upheaval. When conditions change rapidly, as they do during and after extinction events, this latent variation provides the raw material for rapid evolutionary adaptation. Another key mechanism involves the modular nature of biological organization. Living organisms aren't built from scratch each time evolution produces something new. Instead, they're assembled from existing components that can be recombined in novel ways. This modular architecture allows evolution to rapidly generate new forms by mixing and matching existing parts, rather than having to invent everything from the beginning. Consider how quickly mammals evolved flight after the dinosaur extinction. They didn't have to evolve entirely new sensory systems, new metabolisms, or new basic body plans. Instead, they modified existing mammalian features, stretching skin between elongated finger bones to create wing membranes, enhancing existing sensory abilities to navigate in three-dimensional space, and adjusting existing metabolic processes to meet the energy demands of powered flight. This modular approach to evolutionary innovation explains why recovery from mass extinction can be so rapid and so creative. Life doesn't start over from scratch after each catastrophe. Instead, it recombines existing elements in new ways, rapidly generating novel solutions to the challenges of survival in post-extinction environments. The speed of this process can be breathtaking. While complete ecosystem recovery may take millions of years, the initial phases of diversification can happen remarkably quickly. Fossil evidence suggests that some groups begin diversifying within hundreds of thousands of years after major extinction events. In geological terms, this represents almost instantaneous adaptation. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of post-extinction recovery is how consistently it produces ecosystems that are more diverse and complex than what existed before the catastrophe. This pattern seems paradoxical. How can destruction lead to greater complexity? How can the elimination of most life forms result in more diverse communities? The answer lies in understanding how established ecological communities can actually constrain evolutionary innovation. When ecosystems are stable and mature, most available ecological roles are already occupied by well-adapted species. This ecological saturation makes it difficult for new groups to establish themselves or for existing groups to evolve radically new ways of life. Mass extinctions break this pattern of ecological saturation. By eliminating dominant groups, they create what ecologists call ecological release. Suddenly, surviving organisms find themselves in environments with abundant resources and few competitors. This combination of opportunity and reduced competition provides ideal conditions for rapid evolutionary innovation. The result is often an explosion of new life forms that explore adaptive possibilities that were simply unavailable before the extinction event. Some of these experiments fail, but others succeed spectacularly, giving rise to entirely new ways of making a living. Over time, these innovations accumulate, producing ecosystems that are often more diverse and complex than their pre-extinction predecessors. This pattern reveals something profound about the relationship between destruction and creation in biological systems. While mass extinctions are undoubtedly catastrophic for the species that experience them, they also serve as crucial drivers of evolutionary innovation. By periodically clearing away established ecological relationships, they create opportunities for life to explore new possibilities and develop new forms of organization. The implications of this pattern extend far beyond paleontology and evolutionary biology. They suggest that resilience and adaptability are not just occasional features of living systems, but fundamental properties that emerge from the basic organization of life itself. These properties operate at every level, from individual organisms to entire ecosystems, creating multiple layers of protection against extinction. At the organism level, features like genetic diversity, Phenotypic plasticity and modular body plans provide individuals with the flexibility to survive environmental change. At the population level, spatial structure and dispersal abilities allow species to persist even when local conditions become hostile. At the ecosystem level, food web complexity and functional redundancy ensure that critical ecosystem processes can continue even when individual species are lost. But the most remarkable feature of life's resilience may be its ability to turn catastrophe into opportunity. Rather than simply enduring mass extinctions, life uses them as springboards for innovation and diversification. This capacity to transform destruction into creation represents one of the most extraordinary features of our planet's biological history. The mechanisms underlying this transformation are still being discovered and understood by scientists around the world. New fossil discoveries continue to reveal the details of how life has recovered from past catastrophes. Advanced analytical techniques allow researchers to study extinction and recovery processes with unprecedented precision. An ongoing research into extremophiles and other resilient organisms continues to expand our understanding of life's fundamental limits and capabilities. What emerges from this research is a picture of life that is far more robust and creative than most people imagine. Rather than being a fragile phenomenon that exists precariously on the surface of a hostile planet, life appears to be a fundamental feature of Earth's organization. It has survived every catastrophe our planet has thrown at it, and it has consistently emerged from these catastrophes stronger, more diverse, and more complex than before. This resilience isn't just a historical curiosity. It has profound implications for how we understand life's future prospects, including its ability to survive the current period of rapid environmental change. While human activities are certainly causing significant ecological disruption, the history of life on Earth suggests that biological systems possess remarkable abilities to adapt and recover from even severe disturbances. Understanding these recovery mechanisms doesn't diminish the importance of conservation efforts or environmental protection. Individual species that go extinct are lost forever, and the process of recovery can take millions of years. But it does provide a broader perspective on life's fundamental resilience and its extraordinary capacity for renewal and innovation. The story of how life keeps recovering against all odds isn't just about the past. It's about the fundamental nature of biological organization and the deep principles that govern how living systems respond to challenge and change. These principles continue to operate today, shaping the ongoing evolution of life on our planet and determining how biological communities will respond to future environmental challenges. This brings us to one of the most fascinating aspects of life's recovery mechanisms: the role of what scientists call biological insurance. Just like a financial portfolio performs better when it's diversified across multiple investments, ecosystems become more resilient when they contain multiple species that can perform similar functions. This redundancy might seem wasteful at first glance, but it's actually one of evolution's most elegant survival strategies. Consider a forest ecosystem where multiple tree species compete for the same basic resources: sunlight, water, and nutrients. During stable periods, some species might appear unnecessary, barely hanging on while others dominate. But when disaster strikes, this apparent redundancy becomes crucial. If a disease wipes out the dominant species, the seemingly less successful trees are already positioned to fill the gap. They've been waiting in the wings, maintaining just enough of a foothold to survive until their moment arrives. This insurance effect operates at every level of biological organization. In marine ecosystems, multiple species of plankton might occupy similar ecological roles. During normal conditions, a few species dominate the community. But when ocean chemistry changes dramatically, as it did during past mass extinctions, the rare species suddenly become the foundation for recovery. Their pre-existing adaptations, perhaps useless in stable conditions, become exactly what's needed to survive in the new environment. The mathematical elegance of this system is remarkable. Research has shown that ecosystems with higher species diversity consistently demonstrate greater stability when faced with environmental perturbations. It's not just that diverse communities are more likely to contain survivors. The survivors in diverse communities also tend to be more effective at maintaining crucial ecosystem functions during the recovery process. This principle helps explain why life's recoveries often exceed what existed before the catastrophe. When disaster taxa begin their post-extinction expansion, they're not just filling empty space, they're exploring adaptive possibilities that were previously blocked by established competitors. The removal of dominant species doesn't just create vacant niches, it fundamentally restructures the rules of ecological competition, allowing entirely new strategies to emerge and succeed. The fossil record provides stunning examples of this phenomenon. After the end-Ordovician extinction around 445 million years ago, marine ecosystems were dominated by simple communities of filter-feeding organisms. But the recovery period saw the evolution of complex reef systems built by entirely different groups of organisms. These new reefs weren't just replacements for what had been lost. They represented fundamentally new ways of organizing marine communities, with more complex food webs and more efficient energy cycling. Similarly, the recovery from the late Devonian extinction led to the evolution of the first extensive forests on land. Before this extinction event, terrestrial vegetation was relatively simple, dominated by small plants that rarely grew more than a few feet tall. But the post-extinction recovery saw the rapid evolution of tree-sized plants that could grow dozens of feet high, creating the first forest ecosystems and fundamentally changing how terrestrial environments functioned. These transformative recoveries reveal another crucial aspect of life's resilience, its capacity for emergent complexity. When simpler biological systems interact and evolve together over time, they can spontaneously generate higher levels of organization that possess entirely new properties. These emergent properties aren't predictable from studying the individual components. They arise from the complex interactions between multiple evolving elements. Consider how the evolution of photosynthesis by early cyanobacteria fundamentally transformed Earth's atmosphere and made possible all subsequent complex life. The individual biochemical innovations that enabled photosynthesis were remarkable enough, but the emergent property, the transformation of Earth's entire atmospheric chemistry, was something qualitatively different. It created conditions that allowed for entirely new forms of biological organization. This capacity for emergent complexity explains why post-extinction recoveries consistently produce innovations that exceed what existed before the catastrophe. Recovery isn't just about rebuilding damaged systems. It's about the spontaneous generation of new forms of organization that arise from the interactions between surviving elements as they adapt to changed conditions. The process is particularly evident in the recovery of marine ecosystems. Ocean chemistry changes dramatically during major extinction events, often becoming more acidic and losing much of its oxygen. These harsh conditions eliminate most complex organisms, but they also create new selective pressures that drive innovation among the survivors. During the recovery from the Permian-Triassic extinction, for example, marine organisms evolved entirely new shell compositions that were more resistant to acidic conditions. Some developed shells made of different mineral forms that were less likely to dissolve. Others evolved shells with more complex internal structures that provided better protection while using less material. Still others abandoned shells entirely and developed new forms of protection. These innovations weren't just individual adaptations. They fundamentally changed how marine food webs functioned. New shell compositions affected predator-prey relationships. Changes in shell structure influenced how organisms interacted with ocean currents and sediments. The abandonment of shells by some groups created new ecological opportunities for organisms that specialized in consuming soft-bodied prey. The cumulative effect of these individual innovations was the emergence of marine ecosystems that functioned in fundamentally different ways than their pre-extinction predecessors. They processed nutrients differently, cycled carbon through different pathways, and maintained stability through different mechanisms. The recovery produced not just new species, but new forms of ecological organization. This pattern of innovation-driven recovery helps explain one of the most puzzling aspects of Earth's biological history: why biodiversity has generally increased over time despite repeated mass extinctions. Each major extinction event eliminates a significant fraction of existing species, but the subsequent recovery typically produces even greater diversity than what was lost. The mechanism behind this pattern involves the relationship between ecological opportunity and evolutionary innovation. During stable periods, most available ecological roles are occupied by well-adapted species. This ecological saturation constrains innovation, because new adaptations must compete directly with existing solutions that have been refined by millions of years of evolution. Mass extinctions disrupt this pattern of ecological saturation. By eliminating dominant species, they create what ecologists call adaptive zones, regions of ecological possibility that become available for colonization by surviving lineages. These adaptive zones represent evolutionary opportunities that were simply unavailable before the extinction event. The colonization of adaptive zones drives rapid evolutionary diversification. Lineages that survive extinction events often undergo explosive radiation, rapidly diversifying into multiple species that exploit different aspects of the newly available ecological space. This process can generate dozens or even hundreds of new species from single surviving lineages within relatively short geological time periods. But the most remarkable aspect of adaptive radiation is how it consistently produces innovations that transcend simple replacement of what was lost. The mammals that radiated after the dinosaur extinction didn't just become large herbivores and carnivores like their reptilian predecessors. They evolved entirely new approaches to these ecological roles, developing complex social behaviors, sophisticated parental care strategies, and advanced cognitive abilities that had no equivalent in dinosaur-dominated ecosystems. This innovative capacity reflects fundamental properties of evolutionary processes that operate most effectively under conditions of ecological opportunity. When resources are abundant and competition is reduced, natural selection can explore adaptive possibilities that would be eliminated under normal competitive conditions. Unusual mutations that might be harmful in stable environments can become advantageous when environmental conditions change rapidly. The result is often the evolution of biological solutions that are not just different from what existed before, but genuinely superior in terms of efficiency, complexity, or adaptability. These innovations then become the foundation for subsequent evolutionary developments, creating cascading effects that can transform entire ecosystems. Consider the evolution of powered flight invertebrates. This remarkable innovation has evolved independently at least 4 times, in pterosaurs, birds, bats, and potentially in some extinct reptilian lineages. Each group solved the engineering challenges of flight in fundamentally different ways, using different anatomical structures and different physiological approaches. But what's particularly interesting is when these innovations occurred. 3 of the 4 major groups that evolved powered flight did so during or shortly after major extinction events. Pterosaurs appeared in the aftermath of the end-Triassic extinction. Early bird evolution was closely associated with the environmental changes of the late Jurassic. Bat evolution occurred during the rapid environmental changes of the early Cenozoic. This timing isn't coincidental. The ecological disruption associated with extinction events creates conditions that favor the evolution of novel locomotory strategies. When established ecological relationships break down, organisms that can access previously unavailable resources gain enormous advantages. The ability to fly opens up 3-dimensional space for exploitation, providing access to food sources and nesting sites that are unavailable to terrestrial organisms. But flight is just one example of the kinds of innovations that emerged during post-extinction recovery periods. The fossil record is filled with examples of biological breakthroughs that occurred during times of ecological upheaval. The evolution of complex eyes, the development of sophisticated sensory systems, the emergence of social behaviors, and countless other innovations often cluster around periods of environmental change and ecological reorganization. This pattern reveals something profound about the relationship between environmental stress and biological creativity. While stable conditions allow for the refinement of existing adaptations, periods of instability and change drive the evolution of fundamentally new solutions to survival challenges. It's as if life requires periodic disruption to reach its full innovative potential. The molecular mechanisms underlying this enhanced creativity during stressful periods are beginning to be understood through modern research. Environmental stress can increase mutation rates, providing more raw material for natural selection to work with. Stress can also alter gene expression patterns, allowing previously hidden genetic variation to be expressed and tested by natural selection. Perhaps most importantly, stress can disrupt established developmental programs, allowing organisms to explore new body plans and physiological strategies. Many of the most dramatic evolutionary innovations appear to result from changes in developmental timing or the activation of dormant developmental pathways that had been suppressed under normal conditions. These molecular insights help explain why post-extinction recovery periods are so consistently creative. The environmental stress associated with mass extinctions doesn't just eliminate species. It also activates biological mechanisms that enhance the rate and scope of evolutionary innovation among the survivors. The implications of this relationship between stress and creativity extend far beyond paleontology. They suggest that biological systems possess built-in mechanisms for generating solutions to novel challenges. Rather than being passive victims of environmental change, living organisms actively respond to disruption by enhancing their capacity for adaptation and innovation. This active response to challenge helps explain why life has been so successful at recovering from mass extinctions. Each catastrophic event doesn't just test existing adaptations. It also triggers biological processes that generate new adaptations specifically suited to post-extinction conditions. The result is recovery that doesn't just restore what was lost, but creates entirely new forms of biological organization. The speed at which these innovative recoveries can occur is truly remarkable. While complete ecosystem reconstruction may take millions of years, the initial phases of adaptive radiation often happen within hundreds of thousands of years. In some cases, fossil evidence suggests that significant diversification can begin within tens of thousands of years after extinction events. This rapid response time reflects the efficiency of the biological mechanisms that drive post-extinction recovery. Natural selection is an incredibly powerful optimization process when ecological opportunities are abundant and environmental pressures are strong. Under these conditions, even small adaptive advantages can spread rapidly through populations, leading to rapid evolutionary change. The mathematical models that describe these processes reveal why recovery can be so much faster than the original evolution of complex ecosystems. During normal evolutionary periods, new innovations must compete against well-established alternatives that have been refined by long periods of natural selection. This competition slows the rate at which innovations can spread and limits the scope of possible changes. But during post-extinction recovery, surviving innovations face little competition from established alternatives. This reduced competition allows beneficial mutations to spread rapidly and enables populations to explore adaptive possibilities that would be inaccessible under normal competitive conditions. The result is accelerated evolution that can produce dramatic changes in relatively short time periods. The fossil record provides numerous examples of this accelerated evolution during recovery periods. The diversification of mammals after the dinosaur extinction produced more than 20 orders of mammals, within the first 10 million years of the Cenozoic era. This rate of innovation far exceeds what's typically seen during periods of stable environmental conditions. Similarly, the recovery of marine life after the end Permian extinction saw the rapid evolution of entirely new types of reef-building organisms, new forms of predation, and new strategies for surviving in chemically altered ocean conditions. These innovations emerged and spread through marine ecosystems within a few million years, a remarkably short time for such fundamental ecological reorganization. But perhaps the most impressive aspect of these rapid recoveries is how consistently they produce biological solutions that are not just different from what existed before, but actually superior in terms of performance and adaptability. The mammals that replaced dinosaurs developed more sophisticated thermoregulation, more complex social behaviors, and more advanced cognitive abilities. The marine organisms that emerged after ocean chemistry crises evolved more efficient feeding mechanisms, more robust defensive strategies, and more flexible reproductive systems. This consistent improvement suggests that mass extinctions serve as more than just random catastrophes. They function as evolutionary filters that preferentially eliminate less adaptable lineages while promoting the diversification of more resilient and innovative groups. The result is a ratcheting effect, where each extinction recovery cycle pushes life toward greater complexity, adaptability, and resilience. The implications of this ratcheting effect are profound. They suggest that mass extinctions, despite their devastating immediate impacts, actually serve as engines of evolutionary progress. By periodically clearing away established ecological relationships and activating biological mechanisms for innovation, they drive life toward forms of organization that are increasingly sophisticated and resilient. This perspective doesn't minimize the tragedy of extinction for the species that experience it. Every extinction represents the permanent loss of unique evolutionary experiments that took millions of years to develop. But it does provide a broader context for understanding how these individual tragedies contribute to the overall trajectory of life on Earth. The story that emerges from this research is one of life as a fundamentally creative and resilient phenomenon. Rather than being a fragile accident that exists despite the hostile conditions of our planet, life appears to be a robust and innovative process that actively transforms challenges into opportunities for growth and development. This creative resilience operates through mechanisms that span multiple levels of biological organization, from molecular processes that enhance genetic variation during stressful periods, to ecosystem-level processes that promote the emergence of new forms of ecological organization. The result is a biological system that doesn't just survive catastrophic change, but uses that change as fuel for innovation and improvement. Understanding these mechanisms provides crucial insights into how life might respond to current and future environmental challenges. While the specific details of recovery processes vary, depending on the nature of the disruption and the characteristics of surviving organisms, the fundamental principles appear to be consistent across different types of extinctions and different periods in Earth's history. These principles suggest that life possesses remarkable capacities for adaptation and recovery that continue to operate today. Modern biological communities contain the same types of genetic diversity, ecological redundancy, and innovative potential that have enabled recovery from past catastrophes. While current rates of environmental change may be unprecedented in some ways, the biological mechanisms for responding to rapid change are ancient and well-tested. This doesn't guarantee that current ecosystems will successfully navigate ongoing environmental challenges, but it does suggest that life's capacity for resilience and innovation remains as strong today as it has been throughout Earth's history. The same creative processes that transformed past catastrophes into opportunities for evolutionary advancement continue to operate in modern biological systems, providing hope for life's continued success in an uncertain future. The mechanisms that drive this creative resilience extend far beyond what we can observe in the fossil record. At the microscopic level, life has evolved strategies so sophisticated They seem almost like science fiction. Take extremophores, organisms that thrive in conditions that would instantly kill most life forms we're familiar with. These remarkable creatures aren't just surviving in harsh environments. They're actually thriving there, growing and reproducing in ways that challenge everything we thought we knew about the limits of life. Some extremophiles live in water so acidic it could dissolve metal. Others flourish at temperatures exceeding the boiling point of water. Still others survive radiation levels thousands of times higher than what would be lethal to humans. These aren't rare curiosities hiding in remote locations. They represent vast communities of organisms that may actually outnumber all the plants and animals we see around us. Scientists have discovered thriving microbial ecosystems more than 6 kilometers deep in the Earth's crust, living in rock formations under pressures that would crush any surface organism. They've found complex communities in the deepest ocean trenches, where the pressure exceeds what exists at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. They've even found organisms living in the cooling water of nuclear reactors, not just surviving the intense radiation, but actually using it as an energy source. What makes these discoveries so remarkable isn't just that life exists in these extreme environments. It's how these organisms have solved the fundamental challenges of existence in ways that are completely different from anything we see in familiar ecosystems. Some have evolved proteins that remain stable at temperatures that would denature any normal protein. Others have developed cellular membranes that maintain their integrity under crushing pressures. Still others have evolved metabolic pathways that can extract energy from chemical reactions that would be toxic to most organisms. The diversity of solutions that extremophiles have evolved reveals something profound about life's problem-solving capacity. There isn't just one way to be alive. There are thousands, perhaps millions of different approaches to the basic challenges of metabolism, reproduction, and survival. This vast repertoire of biological solutions provides an enormous reservoir of strategies that can be drawn upon during times of environmental crisis. When mass extinction events alter environmental conditions dramatically, the survivors aren't limited to the strategies that worked before the catastrophe. Instead, they can access alternative approaches that may have been dormant or rare in pre-extinction ecosystems. Metabolic pathways that were only used by obscure extremophiles can suddenly become widespread when environmental conditions shift to favor those particular biochemical strategies. This biochemical flexibility helps explain why recovery from mass extinctions can involve such dramatic innovation. The survivors aren't starting from scratch when they begin adapting to post-extinction conditions. They're drawing from a vast library of biological solutions that has been accumulated over billions of years of evolution. Genetic mechanisms that were developed by ancient extremophiles can be reactivated and modified to meet new challenges. The process by which dormant biological capabilities become activated during crisis periods involves complex molecular mechanisms that scientists are still working to understand. Environmental stress can trigger changes in gene expression that activate previously silent genetic pathways. These pathways may encode for proteins or metabolic processes that were developed millions of years ago but haven't been actively used by most organisms. When these ancient capabilities are reactivated, they provide surviving organisms with access to biological tools that are perfectly suited for dealing with the harsh conditions that follow extinction events. Organisms can suddenly develop tolerance for extreme temperatures, resistance to toxic chemicals, or the ability to extract energy from unusual sources. These capabilities allow them not just to survive in post-extinction environments, but to thrive and diversify. The speed at which these molecular adaptations can occur is truly remarkable. While major morphological changes typically require thousands or millions of years to evolve, biochemical adaptations can happen much more rapidly. Populations can develop significant physiological changes within hundreds or even tens of generations when selective pressures are strong enough. This rapid biochemical evolution provides the foundation for the more visible changes that characterize post-extinction recovery. Before organisms can evolve new body plans or new ecological strategies, they need to develop the basic physiological capabilities that will allow them to survive and reproduce in changed environments. The molecular mechanisms that enable this rapid physiological adaptation are crucial components of life's recovery toolkit, but biochemical flexibility is just one layer of life's resilience mechanisms. At higher levels of organization, biological systems have evolved strategies that provide protection against extinction through entirely different approaches. One of the most important of these involves the spatial structure of populations and ecosystems. Most species don't exist as single uniform populations spread evenly across their ranges. Instead, they're organized into networks of local populations that are connected by occasional migration but remain partially isolated from each other. This population structure provides crucial insurance against extinction because local catastrophes rarely affect all populations simultaneously. During mass extinction events, some populations may be completely eliminated while others survive in refugia, protected areas where environmental conditions remain tolerable. These surviving populations serve as sources for recolonization once conditions improve. The genetic diversity preserved in refugia provides the raw material for rapid evolution as populations expand back into areas that were previously uninhabitable. The importance of refugia in extinction recovery has been demonstrated repeatedly in the fossil record. During ice ages, many species survived in small populations confined to relatively warm areas, then rapidly re-expanded their ranges when the climate warmed. During periods of ocean chemistry change, marine organisms often survived in areas where water conditions remained stable, then spread back into recovering ocean basins. But refugia don't just preserve existing species, they also serve as laboratories for evolutionary innovation. The small, isolated populations that survive in refugia are subject to intense selective pressures that can drive rapid evolutionary change. Novel mutations that might be lost in large populations can become established in small refuge populations, especially if those mutations provide advantages for surviving in altered environments. When refuge populations begin expanding back into recovering ecosystems, they often carry with them genetic innovations that were developed during their period of isolation. These innovations can provide significant advantages for colonizing disturbed environments, allowing refuge survivors to spread rapidly and diversify into new ecological roles. The mathematical principles underlying this process help explain why post-extinction recovery often produces greater diversity than existed before the catastrophe. Each refuge population that survives an extinction event represents an independent evolutionary experiment. When these populations expand and begin interacting again, they bring together genetic innovations that were developed independently in different refugia. The recombination of these independently evolved innovations can produce organisms with capabilities that exceed what existed in any single refuge population. This genetic mixing during recolonization creates opportunities for the evolution of entirely new forms of biological organization that combine the best features developed in multiple refugee populations. The fossil record provides numerous examples of this pattern. The diversification of mammals after the dinosaur extinction appears to have involved multiple refugee populations that survived in different geographic regions. When these populations began expanding and mixing during the early Cenozoic, they generated the genetic combinations that gave rise to the major mammalian orders we see today. Similarly, the recovery of marine ecosystems after major extinction events often involves the expansion and mixing of populations that survived in different ocean basins. The genetic innovations developed independently in Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Ocean refugia combine during recovery periods to produce new forms of marine life with capabilities that exceed what existed in any single ocean basin. This process of refuge expansion and genetic mixing operates at multiple temporal and spatial scales. Local extinctions and recoveries happen continuously on smaller scales, providing ongoing opportunities for evolutionary innovation. Regional extinction events create opportunities for innovation at intermediate scales. Global mass extinctions provide the larger scale opportunities for fundamental biological reorganization. The nested nature of these processes creates a hierarchy of resilience mechanisms that operate simultaneously to protect life against extinction. Local population structure provides protection against small-scale disturbances. Regional refuge networks provide protection against intermediate-scale catastrophes. Global dispersal capabilities and the existence of extremophile communities provide protection against the most severe planetary crises. This multi-level protection system explains why life has never been completely eliminated from Earth, despite experiencing catastrophes that have come close to sterilizing the planet. There are always survivors somewhere, in some form, preserving the continuity of life and providing the foundation for subsequent recovery and diversification. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of life's resilience mechanisms is how they operate not just to preserve what already exists, but to actively promote the evolution of increased resilience over time. Each extinction recovery cycle doesn't just restore biological diversity, it tends to produce organisms and ecosystems that are more robust and adaptable than their predecessors. This progressive increase in resilience occurs through several mechanisms. First, extinction events preferentially eliminate lineages that lack robust survival mechanisms, while preserving those with greater adaptive flexibility. This selective pressure gradually shifts the composition of biological communities toward more resilient forms. Second, the genetic mixing that occurs during recovery periods often produces combinations of traits that provide greater resistance to future disturbances. Organisms that survive multiple extinction recovery cycles tend to accumulate genetic mechanisms that enhance their ability to cope with environmental stress. Third, the ecological reorganization that follows extinction events often results in food webs and ecosystem structures that are more stable and resilient than their predecessors. The elimination of ecological relationships that were vulnerable to disruption creates opportunities for the evolution of more robust forms of ecological organization. The cumulative effect of these processes is a gradual increase in the overall resilience of Earth's biological systems. While individual extinction events may be catastrophic for the organisms that experience them, the long-term trajectory of life on Earth shows consistent improvement in the ability to survive and recover from environmental challenges. This progressive enhancement of resilience helps explain why life has become increasingly successful at surviving environmental challenges over Earth's history. Early life forms were vulnerable to relatively minor environmental changes. Modern biological systems can survive and recover from catastrophes that would have completely eliminated early ecosystems. The development of this enhanced resilience represents one of evolution's most remarkable achievements. Through billions of years of trial and error, life has gradually assembled a toolkit of survival mechanisms that provides protection against virtually any conceivable environmental challenge. This toolkit continues to evolve and improve, suggesting that life's capacity for resilience will continue to increase in the future. Understanding these resilience mechanisms provides crucial insights into how modern ecosystems might respond to current environmental challenges. While human activities are certainly causing significant ecological disruption, the fundamental mechanisms that have enabled life to survive past catastrophes remain intact and continue to operate in modern biological systems. The genetic diversity that provides raw material for adaptive evolution still exists in current populations. The population structures that create refugia still characterize most species. The biochemical flexibility that enables survival in extreme environments is still being expressed by extremophile communities. the ecological redundancy that provides insurance against species loss still characterizes most ecosystems. These resilience mechanisms don't guarantee that current ecosystems will successfully navigate ongoing environmental challenges, but they do provide reasons for cautious optimism about life's long-term prospects. The same creative processes that have transformed past catastrophes into opportunities for evolutionary advancement continue to operate today, providing the biological foundation for adaptation to future environmental changes. The story of how life keeps recovering against all odds isn't just about the past. It's about the fundamental principles that govern how biological systems respond to challenge and change. These principles operate across all scales of biological organization, from molecular processes that enhance genetic variation to ecosystem processes that promote stability and resilience. What emerges from studying these principles is a picture of life as an extraordinarily robust and creative phenomenon. Rather than being a fragile accident that exists precariously on the surface of our planet, life appears to be a fundamental feature of how Earth organizes itself. It has survived every challenge our planet has presented, and it has consistently used those challenges as opportunities for innovation and growth. This perspective transforms how we understand both the history of life on Earth and its future prospects. Mass extinctions, while devastating for individual species, serve crucial roles in driving evolutionary innovation and enhancing biological resilience. They clear away established patterns that might otherwise constrain adaptation, and they activate biological mechanisms that promote rapid innovation and diversification. The result is a planetary biological system that becomes more sophisticated and resilient over time. Each extinction recovery cycle adds new capabilities to life's toolkit while testing and refining existing mechanisms. The cumulative effect is a biological system that is far more robust and adaptable today than it was billions of years ago when life first appeared on Earth. This ongoing enhancement of life's capabilities suggests that the future holds even greater possibilities for biological innovation and adaptation. As environmental conditions continue to change, whether through natural processes or human activities, life will continue to respond with the same creativity and resilience that has characterized its entire history on our planet. The mechanisms that drive this creativity operate through principles that are as beautiful as they are powerful. They involve the emergence of complexity from simple interactions, the transformation of constraint into opportunity, and the conversion of destruction into creation. These principles reflect fundamental features of how information and energy organize themselves into increasingly sophisticated patterns. Understanding these principles provides not just scientific insights, but also a deeper appreciation for the remarkable phenomenon we call life. Every organism around us, from the smallest microbe to the largest whale, represents the latest chapter in a 4.5 billion year story of innovation, adaptation, and resilience. They are all products of countless extinction recovery cycles that have gradually assembled the biological toolkit that makes their existence possible. This perspective reveals life on Earth as something truly extraordinary. It's not just a collection of individual species struggling for survival in a harsh environment. It's a planetary phenomenon that actively transforms challenges into opportunities, converts destruction into creation, and uses catastrophe as fuel for innovation and growth. The implications extend far beyond biology and paleontology. They suggest that resilience and adaptability are not just occasional features of some biological systems, but fundamental properties that emerge from the basic principles of how complex systems organize themselves. These principles may apply not just to biological systems, but to any complex system that must maintain itself in the face of environmental challenges. As we face our own environmental challenges, understanding these principles becomes increasingly important. They remind us that complex systems, including human societies and technological systems, can develop remarkable capacities for resilience and adaptation when they're organized according to principles that promote flexibility, diversity, and innovation. The story of life's recovery from mass extinctions provides a template for thinking about how any complex system can develop the capacity to not just survive challenges, but to use those challenges as opportunities for improvement and growth. It's a story about the fundamental creativity of complex systems and their remarkable ability to transform adversity into advantage. But perhaps most importantly, it's a story that reveals the true nature of life on our planet. Life isn't just hanging on despite the challenges Earth presents. It's thriving because of those challenges, using them as raw material for an ongoing process of innovation and improvement that has been operating for billions of years and shows no signs of slowing down. Every extinction event in Earth's history has been followed by recovery that produced something new, something more diverse, and something more resilient than what existed before. This pattern suggests that life's greatest innovations may still lie ahead, waiting to emerge from future challenges that we can't yet imagine. The mechanisms that make this possible are operating right now in ecosystems around the world, in the genetic diversity of current populations, in the biochemical innovations of extremophile communities, and in the complex interactions between species that create the foundation for future evolutionary breakthroughs. Life's capacity to keep recovering against all odds isn't just a remarkable feature of Earth's past. It's an ongoing process that continues to shape the future of our planet, transforming every challenge into an opportunity for the emergence of new forms of beauty, complexity, and resilience that expand the boundaries of what we thought was possible. The next time you see a tree growing through concrete, or hear about organisms thriving in environments that seem impossible for life, remember that you're witnessing the latest chapter in the most remarkable story our planet has to tell. It's the story of how life transforms the impossible into the inevitable, one challenge at a time, one innovation at a time, one recovery at a time. And the most amazing part is that this story is still being written. Every day, in ways both visible and invisible, life continues to demonstrate the same creative resilience that has enabled it to bounce back from every catastrophe Earth has thrown at it. The mechanisms that drove past recoveries are still operating, still innovating, still preparing for whatever challenges the future might bring. This ongoing creativity ensures that life's greatest achievements may still lie ahead of us. The same processes that transformed past extinction events into opportunities for unprecedented evolutionary innovation continue to operate today, suggesting that the future holds possibilities for biological creativity that we can barely begin to imagine. The story of how life keeps recovering against all odds is ultimately a story about possibility itself, about the fundamental capacity of complex systems to transcend their apparent limitations and create something entirely new from the raw materials of challenge and change. It's a story that continues to unfold around us every day, in every ecosystem, in every organism, in every adaptation that pushes the boundaries of what life can achieve. What makes this story even more extraordinary is how life has developed an arsenal of molecular tools that seem almost designed for surviving the impossible. Deep within the cells of every organism on Earth, there are genetic mechanisms that have been quietly preparing for catastrophe for billions of years. These aren't just simple backup systems. They're sophisticated molecular machines that can completely rewire how an organism functions when conditions become extreme. Consider what happens when environmental stress pushes organisms to their breaking point. Most people assume that stress simply damages biological systems, weakening them and making survival less likely. But research has revealed something far more remarkable. Moderate levels of environmental stress actually activate genetic programs that enhance an organism's ability to survive future challenges. It's as if cells have built-in training regimens that make them stronger and more adaptable when conditions become difficult. These stress response systems operate through a fascinating process called hormesis. When organisms experience manageable levels of environmental challenge, their cells respond by producing protective proteins, enhancing DNA repair mechanisms, and activating alternative metabolic pathways. The result is organisms that are actually more resilient than they were before the stress occurred. The implications of this phenomenon for understanding mass extinction recovery are profound. The environmental upheaval that accompanies extinction events doesn't just eliminate vulnerable species. It also triggers biological processes in surviving organisms that enhance their capacity for adaptation and innovation. Survivors emerge from extinction events not just alive, but biochemically primed for rapid evolution and diversification. This molecular preparation for change helps explain why post-extinction radiations can happen so quickly. When environmental conditions stabilize enough to allow population growth, surviving organisms aren't starting their recovery from a weakened state. They're beginning from a condition of enhanced genetic flexibility and metabolic adaptability that was activated by the stress of surviving the extinction event itself. The fossil record provides compelling evidence for this pattern. Many of the most dramatic evolutionary innovations in Earth's history appear shortly after periods of intense environmental stress. The evolution of complex multicellularity, the development of hard shells and skeletons, the emergence of sophisticated sensory systems, and countless other biological breakthroughs cluster around periods when environmental conditions were changing rapidly. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of these stress-activated enhancement systems is how they can remain dormant for millions of years, waiting for the right conditions to activate them. Genetic analyses of modern organisms reveal that their genomes contain vast repositories of dormant capabilities that were developed by ancient ancestors and preserved through countless generations of apparently normal conditions. These dormant capabilities aren't evolutionary junk. They're biological insurance policies, maintained at significant metabolic cost because they provide crucial advantages during times of environmental crisis. When conditions become extreme enough to activate these ancient programs, organisms suddenly gain access to survival strategies that may have been developed hundreds of millions of years ago by ancestors living in completely different environments. The reactivation of ancient genetic programs helps explain some of the most puzzling features of post-extinction evolution. How did mammals evolve the ability to echolocate so quickly after the dinosaur extinction? How did plants develop sophisticated chemical defenses against new types of herbivores? How did marine organisms evolve resistance to ocean chemistry changes that had never occurred during their evolutionary history? In many cases, the answer appears to be that these capabilities weren't evolved from scratch during the recovery period. Instead, they represent the reactivation and modification of ancient genetic programs that had been dormant in ancestral lineages. The environmental stress of extinction events triggers the expression of these dormant programs, providing surviving organisms with immediate access to sophisticated biological tools. This process of genetic reactivation operates alongside more familiar evolutionary mechanisms like mutation and natural selection, but it can produce adaptive changes much more rapidly than traditional evolutionary processes because it's drawing from a vast library of pre-existing biological solutions rather than having to invent everything from the beginning. The speed advantage provided by genetic reactivation is particularly important during the chaotic periods immediately following extinction events. Environmental conditions often change rapidly and unpredictably during these periods, creating selective pressures that shift faster than normal evolutionary processes can respond to. Access to pre-existing genetic solutions allows surviving organisms to track these rapid environmental changes and maintain viable populations while conditions stabilize. But genetic reactivation is just one component of a much larger biological phenomenon that scientists are beginning to understand: the emergence of what researchers call evolutionary rescue. This remarkable process allows populations that are on the verge of extinction to not just survive environmental challenges, but to rapidly evolve increased fitness under the new conditions. Evolutionary rescue operates through the interaction of several biological mechanisms. Environmental stress increases mutation rates, providing more raw material for natural selection to work with. Population bottlenecks caused by environmental challenges can allow beneficial mutations that would normally be lost to become established in small surviving populations. And the relaxation of normal competitive pressures during recovery periods allows populations to explore adaptive possibilities that would be inaccessible under normal conditions. The mathematical models that describe evolutionary rescue reveal why this process is so effective at generating rapid adaptive change. When populations are small and environmental pressures are strong, even mutations with relatively modest beneficial effects can spread rapidly through the population. This allows multiple beneficial mutations to accumulate quickly, producing substantial improvements in fitness within relatively few generations. Real-world examples of evolutionary rescue have been documented in modern populations facing environmental challenges. Fish populations in polluted lakes have evolved resistance to heavy metals within decades. Plant populations in contaminated soils have developed tolerance for toxic chemicals. Insect populations have evolved resistance to pesticides almost as quickly as new chemicals are developed. These modern examples of rapid evolution provide insights into how similar processes might have operated during post-extinction recovery periods. The same mechanisms that allow modern populations to evolve resistance to human-caused environmental changes would have enabled ancient populations to adapt rapidly to the environmental upheaval associated with mass extinction events. But the most remarkable feature of evolutionary rescue may be its ability to generate solutions that are genuinely superior to what existed before the environmental challenge. Populations that successfully navigate evolutionary rescue don't just regain their previous fitness levels. They often emerge with capabilities that exceed what they possessed before the crisis began. This improvement during crisis reflects the creative potential that emerges when normal evolutionary constraints are relaxed. Under stable conditions, most mutations are harmful because existing organisms are already well adapted to their environments. But when environments change dramatically, mutations that would normally be harmful can suddenly become beneficial, and combinations of mutations that would never be tested under normal conditions can be explored safely. The result is often the emergence of biological solutions that represent genuine innovations rather than simple adaptations to changed conditions. These innovations then become the foundation for subsequent evolutionary developments, creating cascading effects that can transform entire lineages and ecosystems. Consider what happened during the recovery from the end Cretaceous extinction. The mammals that survived this event didn't just adapt to the absence of dinosaurs. They evolved entirely new approaches to being large terrestrial animals. They developed sophisticated thermoregulation that allowed them to maintain stable body temperatures across a wide range of environmental conditions. They evolved complex social behaviors that enabled cooperative hunting and resource sharing. They developed advanced cognitive abilities that allowed them to solve problems and adapt to changing conditions in real time. These innovations weren't just responses to immediate post-extinction conditions. They were fundamental breakthroughs in biological organization that provided mammals with capabilities that far exceeded anything possessed by their dinosaurian predecessors. The environmental challenge of surviving mass extinction drove the evolution of biological solutions that were genuinely superior to what had existed before. This pattern of crisis-driven innovation helps explain why Earth's biological systems have become increasingly sophisticated over time. Each major environmental challenge doesn't just test existing capabilities. It drives the evolution of enhanced capabilities that provide greater resilience against future challenges. The cumulative effect is a biological system that becomes more robust and adaptable with each extinction recovery cycle. The mechanisms underlying this progressive enhancement operate at multiple levels of biological organization. At the molecular level, stress response systems become more sophisticated and responsive. At the cellular level, repair and maintenance mechanisms become more efficient and reliable. At the organismal level, sensory and cognitive systems become more powerful and flexible. At the ecosystem level, food webs and nutrient cycles become more stable and resilient. But perhaps the most important enhancement involves the evolution of what scientists call meta-adaptations, biological mechanisms that enhance the capacity for adaptation itself. These include systems that increase genetic diversity during stressful periods, mechanisms that allow rapid switching between alternative developmental programs, and cognitive abilities that enable learning and behavioral adaptation within individual lifetimes. Meta-adaptations represent evolution's solution to the problem of unpredictable environments. Rather than evolving specific adaptations to particular environmental conditions, organisms evolve enhanced capacities for adapting to whatever conditions they might encounter. This approach provides much greater flexibility and resilience than traditional adaptive strategies. The development of meta-adaptations helps explain why recovery from mass extinctions consistently produces biological innovations that exceed what existed before the catastrophe. Surviving organisms don't just evolve adaptations to post-extinction conditions. They evolve enhanced capacities for adaptation that prepare them for future environmental challenges. Modern organisms are the inheritors of billions of years of meta-adaptation evolution. They possess genetic systems that can rapidly generate adaptive variation when needed, developmental programs that can produce alternative body plans in response to environmental cues, immune systems that can quickly evolve responses to new pathogens, and nervous systems that can learn and adapt throughout their lifetimes. These sophisticated adaptive capabilities explain why modern biological systems are so much more resilient than early life forms. Ancient organisms were vulnerable to relatively minor environmental changes because they lacked the meta-adaptive capabilities that have evolved through countless extinction recovery cycles. Modern organisms can survive and adapt to environmental challenges that would have completely eliminated early ecosystems. The evolution of meta-adaptations also provides insights into how biological systems might respond to future environmental challenges. The same mechanisms that have enabled life to survive past catastrophes continue to operate in modern organisms, providing the foundation for adaptation to whatever environmental changes the future might bring. Understanding these mechanisms reveals that biological resilience isn't just a passive property that allows life to endure environmental challenges. It's an active process that transforms challenges into opportunities for innovation and improvement. Every environmental crisis becomes a catalyst for the evolution of enhanced capabilities that prepare life for even greater challenges in the future. This active transformation of challenge into opportunity represents one of the most remarkable features of life on Earth. Rather than being a victim of environmental change, life has evolved to use change as fuel for innovation and growth. The more severe the challenge, the greater the opportunity for breakthrough innovations that transcend previous limitations. The implications of this perspective extend far beyond understanding past extinction events. They provide insights into the fundamental nature of complex adaptive systems and their capacity for resilience and innovation. The same principles that enable biological systems to transform catastrophe into opportunity may apply to other complex systems, including human societies and technological systems. But the most important implication may be what this reveals about life's future prospects. The mechanisms that have enabled life to survive and thrive through billions of years of environmental challenges continue to operate today. They provide the foundation for continued adaptation and innovation, regardless of what environmental challenges the future might bring. The story of how life keeps recovering against all odds isn't just about past events. It's about ongoing processes that continue to shape the evolution of life on our planet. Every organism alive today represents the latest product of these processes, carrying within their genes and cells the accumulated wisdom of billions of years of survival and adaptation. This accumulated wisdom includes not just specific adaptations to particular environments, but meta-adaptive capabilities that enhance the capacity for future adaptation. Modern organisms possess genetic toolkits, developmental programs, and physiological systems that are far more sophisticated and flexible than anything that existed in Earth's early history. These enhanced capabilities provide reasons for optimism about life's ability to navigate current and future environmental challenges. While the specific details of how organisms will respond to changing conditions can't be predicted, the fundamental mechanisms that enable adaptive responses have been tested and refined through countless environmental crises. The creative resilience that has enabled life to bounce back from every mass extinction in Earth's history continues to operate in modern biological systems. It provides the foundation for continued innovation and adaptation, ensuring that life will continue to find ways to thrive, regardless of what challenges the future might bring. This ongoing creativity represents perhaps the most remarkable aspect of life on Earth. It's not just that life has survived environmental challenges, it's that life has consistently used those challenges to drive innovation and improvement. Every crisis becomes an opportunity for breakthrough developments that expand the boundaries of what's possible. The mechanisms that drive this creative process operate continuously in every ecosystem, in every population, in every organism. They're constantly generating variation, testing new possibilities, and refining adaptive solutions. This ongoing creative activity ensures that life's capacity for resilience and innovation continues to grow and develop. Understanding these mechanisms provides a new perspective on what it means to be alive on Earth today. Every organism is part of an ongoing creative process that has been operating for billions of years and continues to shape the future of our planet. Every adaptation, every innovation, every successful response to environmental challenge adds to the accumulated wisdom that enables life to thrive in an uncertain world. This perspective reveals life on Earth as something far more dynamic and creative than most people imagine. Rather than being a collection of organisms struggling to survive in a hostile environment, life is an active, innovative process that transforms challenges into opportunities and uses adversity as fuel for growth and development. The story continues to unfold around us every day, in ways both visible and invisible, as life responds to changing conditions with the same creativity and resilience that has characterized its entire history on our planet. The mechanisms that enabled recovery from past mass extinctions continue to operate, ensuring that life's greatest innovations may still lie ahead. The creative mechanisms that drive life's recovery operate on timescales that can be difficult for us to fully grasp. When scientists talk about rapid evolutionary change in the context of mass extinction recovery, they're referring to processes that unfold over hundreds of thousands or millions of years. Yet, from the perspective of Earth's deep history, these represent periods of almost explosive innovation and adaptation. Consider the mathematical elegance underlying these recovery processes. Population genetics reveals that small surviving populations can evolve much more rapidly than large, stable communities. When environmental catastrophe reduces a species to small refugial populations, genetic changes that would take millions of years to spread through large populations can become established within thousands of generations. This acceleration occurs because beneficial mutations face less competition from existing genetic variants and can spread through small populations with remarkable efficiency. But the speed of genetic change is only part of the story. The fossil record shows that morphological innovation, The evolution of new body plans and anatomical structures can happen with surprising rapidity during post-extinction periods. The diversification of early mammals after the dinosaur extinction produced more than 20 distinct orders within roughly 10 million years. Each of these orders represents a fundamentally different approach to mammalian life, from tiny insectivores to massive browsers, from gliding tree dwellers to powerful carnivores. This rapid morphological diversification reflects the operation of developmental mechanisms that can produce dramatic changes in body form through relatively small genetic modifications. Modern research in evolutionary developmental biology has revealed that major changes in anatomy often result from alterations in the timing or location of developmental gene expression rather than the evolution of entirely new genes. These regulatory changes can produce substantial morphological differences between closely related species, explaining how rapid anatomical evolution can occur during recovery periods. The fossil record of marine recovery provides equally striking examples of rapid innovation. After the end Permian extinction eliminated most reef-building organisms, entirely new types of marine communities emerged within a few million years. These new communities weren't just rebuilt versions of pre-extinction ecosystems. They represented fundamentally different approaches to organizing marine life, with novel feeding strategies, new types of predator-prey relationships, and innovative methods for constructing three-dimensional habitat structures. One of the most remarkable aspects of these marine recoveries involves the evolution of biomineralization, the biological production of hard shells and skeletons. Many groups that survived the end Permian extinction evolved entirely new approaches to building protective structures. Some developed shells made from different mineral compositions that were more resistant to the acidic ocean conditions that persisted after the extinction. Others evolved shells with complex internal architectures that provided better protection while using less material. These innovations in biomineralization weren't just individual adaptations. They fundamentally changed how marine ecosystems functioned. New shell compositions affected the cycling of calcium and carbon through ocean systems. Changes in shell architecture influenced how organisms interacted with ocean currents and seafloor sediments. The evolution of more efficient biomineralization strategies allowed some groups to build larger and more complex structures, creating new types of marine habitat. The cumulative effect of these individual innovations was the emergence of marine ecosystems that processed nutrients differently, cycled carbon through alternative pathways, and maintained stability through novel mechanisms. Recovery didn't just restore marine biodiversity, it created new forms of ecosystem organization that were often more efficient and resilient than their predecessors. This pattern of functional innovation during recovery extends beyond changes in individual organisms to encompass the evolution of entirely new types of ecological relationships. Mass extinctions eliminate not just species, but the complex webs of interactions between species that characterize mature ecosystems. The reconstruction of these interaction networks during recovery provides opportunities for the evolution of novel ecological partnerships. Some of the most important innovations in Earth's biological history involve the evolution of symbiotic relationships where different species develop mutually beneficial partnerships. The evolution of photosynthetic symbionts in marine organisms, the development of nitrogen-fixing partnerships between plants and bacteria, and the emergence of mycorrhizal associations between plants and fungi all represent breakthrough innovations that fundamentally enhance the efficiency of biological systems. Many of these crucial symbiotic relationships appear to have evolved during or shortly after periods of environmental stress and ecological reorganization. The environmental disruption associated with extinction events creates conditions that favor the evolution of cooperative relationships. When resources become scarce and environmental conditions are challenging, organisms that can form beneficial partnerships gain significant advantages over those that must survive independently. The evolution of these partnerships often involves the integration of previously independent organisms into more complex biological systems. This process can produce emergent capabilities that exceed the sum of the individual components. Photosynthetic partnerships allow organisms to harness solar energy directly. Nitrogen-fixing relationships enable plants to access atmospheric nitrogen that would otherwise be unavailable. Mycorrhizal associations create underground networks that can share nutrients and information across vast areas. These symbiotic innovations represent some of evolution's most elegant solutions to the challenges of survival and reproduction. Rather than evolving complex capabilities independently, organisms partner with specialists that have already mastered particular biological functions. The result is biological systems that can accomplish things that would be impossible for any individual organism. The frequency with which these partnerships evolve during post-extinction periods suggests that environmental stress promotes cooperative solutions to survival challenges. When conditions are harsh and resources are limited, competition between organisms can become less important than cooperation. The organisms that survive and thrive are often those that find ways to work together rather than those that compete most effectively. This shift toward cooperation during stressful periods has profound implications for understanding how ecosystems recover from catastrophic disturbance. Recovery isn't just about individual species adapting to changed conditions. It's about the evolution of new forms of biological cooperation that enhance the efficiency and resilience of entire communities. The mathematical models that describe these cooperative dynamics reveal why post-extinction ecosystems often become more stable and resilient than their predecessors. Systems based on cooperation and mutual benefit are inherently more robust than those based purely on competition. When one component of a cooperative system faces challenges, other components can provide support that helps the entire system maintain stability. This enhanced stability provides protection against future environmental disturbances. Ecosystems that have evolved strong cooperative relationships are better able to maintain critical functions even when individual components are stressed or eliminated. The redundancy and mutual support built into cooperative systems create multiple pathways for maintaining ecosystem stability. The fossil record provides compelling evidence for this pattern of increasing ecosystem stability over time. Early ecosystems appear to have been relatively fragile, with simple food webs that could be disrupted by relatively minor environmental changes. Later ecosystems show increasing complexity and apparent resilience, with more diverse food webs and more robust patterns of nutrient cycling. This progressive enhancement of ecosystem stability represents one of the most important long-term consequences of the extinction recovery process. Each major extinction event not only drives the evolution of new species and ecological relationships, but also promotes the development of more resilient forms of ecosystem organization. The result is a gradual increase in the ability of biological systems to maintain stability in the face of environmental challenges. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of ecosystem recovery involves the emergence of what ecologists call ecosystem engineering. This refers to the ability of organisms to modify their physical environment in ways that create new ecological opportunities for themselves and other species. Many of the most dramatic ecosystem recoveries in Earth's history have involved the evolution of powerful ecosystem engineers that fundamentally transformed the environments they inhabited. The evolution of trees represents one of the most important examples of ecosystem engineering in Earth's history. Before the evolution of large woody plants, terrestrial environments were relatively simple, dominated by low-growing vegetation and simple soil communities. The evolution of trees created entirely new types of terrestrial habitat, with complex three-dimensional structures that supported much more diverse communities of organisms. Trees didn't just grow taller than their predecessors. They fundamentally changed how terrestrial ecosystems functioned. Their extensive root systems altered soil chemistry and hydrology. Their canopies created new microclimate zones with different temperature, humidity, and light conditions. Their woody tissues provided new types of habitat for boring insects, nesting birds, and countless other organisms. The emergence of forest ecosystems represents a classic example of how ecosystem engineering can drive cascading changes that transform entire environments. The evolution of trees created opportunities for the evolution of organisms specialized for life in forest environments. These forest specialists then drove further ecosystem changes, creating feedback loops that promoted increasing ecosystem complexity and diversity. Similar patterns of ecosystem engineering have driven major transformations in marine environments. The evolution of reef-building organisms has repeatedly transformed shallow marine environments, creating complex three-dimensional habitats that support much more diverse communities than flat seafloor environments. Each major group of reef builders, from ancient stromatoporoids to modern corals, has engineered marine environments in ways that created new ecological opportunities. The remarkable consistency with which ecosystem engineering innovations emerge during post-extinction recovery periods suggests that environmental disruption creates particularly favorable conditions for the evolution of environment-modifying capabilities. When existing ecosystem structures are destroyed by extinction events, there are enormous advantages to evolving the ability to construct new types of habitat. Organisms that can engineer their environments gain access to ecological opportunities that are unavailable to those that must accept existing environmental conditions. They can create favorable microenvironments that buffer them against environmental stress. They can modify resource availability in ways that give them competitive advantages. Most importantly, they can create new types of habitat that support entirely new ecological communities. The evolution of ecosystem engineering capabilities often involves the co-option of existing biological structures for new environmental modification functions. The woody tissues that allow trees to grow tall evolved from water transport systems. The calcium carbonate structures that reef-building corals use to construct reefs evolved from simple skeletal elements. The extensive burrow systems that some animals use to modify soil environments evolved from simple shelters. This pattern of co-opting existing structures for new functions represents one of evolution's most powerful mechanisms for generating innovation. Rather than having to evolve complex capabilities from scratch, organisms can modify existing biological systems to serve new purposes. This approach allows for much more rapid evolution of sophisticated capabilities than would be possible through entirely de novo innovation. The speed with which ecosystem engineering innovations can emerge helps explain why post-extinction recovery often involves rapid transformation of environmental conditions. When surviving organisms evolve powerful environment-modifying capabilities, they can quickly create new types of habitat that support rapid diversification of other organisms. The result is positive feedback loops that accelerate the pace of ecosystem recovery and innovation. These feedback mechanisms operate at multiple scales and through various biological processes. At the local scale, ecosystem engineers create microenvironments that support specialized organisms, which then modify the environment further. At the regional scale, the spread of ecosystem engineering innovations can transform entire landscapes or ocean basins. At the global scale, major ecosystem engineering innovations can alter atmospheric and oceanic chemistry in ways that affect climate and environmental conditions worldwide. The cumulative effects of these engineering innovations over Earth's history have fundamentally transformed our planet's surface environments. The oxygen-rich atmosphere that supports complex life resulted from ecosystem engineering by photosynthetic organisms. The complex soil systems that support terrestrial ecosystems were engineered by countless generations of plants, fungi, and soil organisms. The intricate patterns of ocean circulation that regulate global climate are influenced by the activities of marine ecosystem engineers. This perspective reveals life not as a passive inhabitant of Earth's environments, but as an active agent that has played a crucial role in shaping the planet's surface conditions. Through billions of years of ecosystem engineering, life has gradually transformed Earth from a planet with relatively simple physical and chemical environments into one with extraordinarily complex and dynamic environmental systems. The ongoing nature of this ecosystem engineering process means that life continues to modify Earth's environments today. Modern organisms are constantly altering soil chemistry, atmospheric composition, ocean chemistry, and countless other environmental parameters. These modifications create new ecological opportunities that drive continued evolution and diversification. Understanding the role of ecosystem engineering in post-extinction recovery provides important insights into how biological systems might respond to current environmental challenges. The same mechanisms that have enabled life to engineer solutions to past environmental problems continue to operate today. Modern organisms possess the same fundamental capabilities for environmental modification that have driven ecosystem recovery throughout Earth's history. This doesn't mean that current environmental challenges will be easily solved through biological innovation. The timescales required for major ecosystem engineering innovations are much longer than human planning horizons. But it does suggest that biological systems possess inherent capabilities for adapting to and modifying environmental conditions that provide long-term mechanisms for maintaining habitability. The story of ecosystem engineering during post-extinction recovery also reveals the profound interconnectedness of biological and physical processes on Earth. Life doesn't just adapt to environmental conditions. It actively modifies those conditions in ways that create new possibilities for biological organization. This dynamic interaction between life and environment has been a driving force behind the increasing complexity and diversity of Earth's biological systems. The mechanisms that enable this interaction continue to operate today, ensuring that the story of life's creative response to environmental challenges is far from over. Every ecosystem on Earth contains organisms that are actively modifying their environments in ways that create new ecological opportunities. These ongoing modifications provide the foundation for continued biological innovation and adaptation. The creative power of ecosystem engineering represents one of life's most remarkable capabilities. It allows organisms not just to adapt to existing environmental conditions, but to actively create the conditions that will support future biological innovation. This capacity to engineer the future provides a mechanism for life to transcend apparent environmental limitations and create new possibilities for growth and development. Through ecosystem engineering, life has repeatedly demonstrated its ability to transform apparent constraints into opportunities for innovation. Environmental challenges that initially appear to limit biological possibility often become the foundation for new forms of ecosystem organization that support even greater biological diversity and complexity. This transformative power continues to operate today in every ecosystem through the activities of countless organisms that are actively modifying their environments. Each modification creates new possibilities, new opportunities, new pathways for biological innovation. The cumulative effect is an ongoing process of environmental and biological coevolution that continues to expand the boundaries of what's possible on Earth. The implications extend far beyond understanding past recovery events. They provide insights into the fundamental dynamics that govern the relationship between life and environment on our planet. These dynamics suggest that biological systems possess inherent capabilities for environmental problem solving that operate over long timescales and can address challenges that exceed the apparent limits of individual adaptation. Understanding these capabilities provides a broader perspective on life's resilience and creative potential. The same mechanisms that have enabled recovery from past mass extinctions continue to operate today, providing the foundation for continued biological innovation, regardless of what environmental challenges the future might bring. The remarkable story of life's resilience becomes even more extraordinary when we examine the role of what scientists call biological memory. This isn't memory in the way we usually think about it, but rather the preservation of genetic information that allows organisms to rapidly redevelop capabilities that were lost during extinction events. Deep within the genomes of every living creature lies a vast archive of biological solutions that have been tested and refined over hundreds of millions of years. When environmental conditions change dramatically, as they do during mass extinction events, this genetic memory becomes crucial for survival and recovery. Genes that haven't been actively expressed for millions of years can suddenly become reactivated when environmental pressures create the right conditions. It's as if organisms carry within their DNA a library of survival strategies from their entire evolutionary history, ready to be accessed when needed. The process by which this genetic memory operates is fascinatingly complex. Environmental stress can trigger changes in gene regulation that activate dormant genetic pathways. These pathways may encode for proteins that provide resistance to extreme temperatures, tolerance for toxic chemicals, or the ability to extract energy from unusual sources. When these ancient capabilities are reactivated, surviving organisms gain access to biological tools that are perfectly suited for dealing with post-extinction conditions. Consider what happened during the recovery from the late Ordovician extinction. Many marine organisms that survived this catastrophe rapidly evolved new shell compositions and structures that were better adapted to the changed ocean chemistry. Detailed genetic analysis suggests that many of these innovations involved the reactivation of biomineralization genes that had been dormant for millions of years. Rather than evolving entirely new capabilities from scratch, these organisms accessed ancient genetic programs that had been developed by distant ancestors. This pattern of genetic reactivation helps explain why post-extinction evolution can produce such sophisticated adaptations so quickly. The survivors aren't starting from zero when they begin adapting to changed conditions. They're drawing from a vast repository of genetic solutions that has been accumulated over billions of years of evolutionary experimentation. The preservation of this genetic memory requires sophisticated molecular mechanisms that can maintain unused genes in functional condition across geological timescales. Recent research has revealed that organisms possess complex systems for protecting dormant genes from mutations that would render them non-functional. These protective mechanisms represent a significant metabolic investment, suggesting that the ability to access ancient genetic programs provides enormous survival advantages during environmental crises. But genetic memory is just one component of a larger phenomenon that scientists are beginning to understand: the emergence of what researchers call adaptive landscapes. These represent the multidimensional space of all possible biological solutions to survival challenges. Each point in this landscape corresponds to a different combination of traits that an organism might possess, and the height of each point represents how well that combination would perform under specific environmental conditions. During stable periods, most organisms cluster around high peaks in the adaptive landscape, representing combinations of traits that work well under current conditions. But mass extinctions dramatically reshape this landscape, eliminating many previously successful combinations while creating new peaks that represent effective solutions to post-extinction challenges. The mathematical models that describe adaptive landscapes reveal why post-extinction evolution can be so creative and rapid. When environmental conditions change suddenly, the landscape shifts in ways that can make previously inaccessible peaks suddenly reachable. Combinations of traits that would never be tested under normal conditions become viable pathways for evolutionary exploration. This landscape shifting explains why extinction events often trigger the evolution of entirely new types of organisms, rather than just modified versions of what existed before. When the adaptive landscape changes dramatically, evolution can explore regions of trait space that were previously unreachable, leading to the emergence of fundamentally new biological solutions. The fossil record provides compelling evidence for this landscape-shifting process. The transition from the Paleozoic to the Mesozoic era, marked by the end Permian extinction, saw the emergence of entirely new types of marine and terrestrial ecosystems. Many of the dominant groups in Mesozoic ecosystems had no clear predecessors in Paleozoic faunas, suggesting that they represent exploration of previously inaccessible regions of adaptive space. Similarly, the transition from the Mesozoic to the Cenozoic era, marked by the end Cretaceous extinction, opened up adaptive landscapes that had been inaccessible during the age of dinosaurs. The rapid diversification of mammals into large-bodied forms represents exploration of adaptive peaks that were simply unreachable while dinosaurs occupied those ecological roles. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of adaptive landscape dynamics involves the emergence of what biologists call evolutionary innovation. This refers to the development of entirely new biological capabilities that create new dimensions in the adaptive landscape itself. These innovations don't just represent movement to different peaks in existing landscape. They fundamentally expand the landscape by creating new types of peaks that didn't exist before. The evolution of powered flight represents a classic example of evolutionary innovation. Before any organism evolved the ability to fly, there were no adaptive peaks in the landscape that corresponded to aerial locomotion. The evolution of flight by insects, pterosaurs, birds, and bats didn't just involve movement to different positions in existing adaptive space. It created entirely new dimensions of adaptive possibility. Each major evolutionary innovation has similar landscape expanding effects. The evolution of photosynthesis created new adaptive peaks based on the ability to harness solar energy. The evolution of complex multicellularity opened up adaptive landscapes based on division of labor between specialized cell types. The evolution of nervous systems created adaptive possibilities based on information processing and behavioral flexibility. The frequency with which major evolutionary innovations emerge during post-extinction recovery periods suggests that environmental disruption creates particularly favorable conditions for landscape expansion. When existing adaptive peaks are eliminated by extinction events, there are enormous advantages to evolving capabilities that create entirely new types of peaks. These innovations can provide access to adaptive landscapes that are completely inaccessible to organisms limited to pre-extinction capabilities. The mechanisms underlying evolutionary innovation involve complex interactions between genetic, developmental, and environmental factors. Most innovations appear to result from modifications to existing biological systems, rather than the evolution of entirely novel mechanisms. This modular approach to innovation allows for relatively rapid development of sophisticated new capabilities. Consider how echolocation evolved independently in dolphins and bats. Both groups modified existing sensory and vocalization systems to create sophisticated biological sonar capabilities. The basic components, sound production organs, sensitive hearing, and neural processing systems already existed in ancestral mammals. The innovation involved integrating and modifying these existing systems to create new capabilities for navigating and hunting in three-dimensional space. This pattern of innovation through system integration helps explain why post-extinction periods are so consistently creative. Environmental disruption breaks apart existing biological systems and creates opportunities for their components to be recombined in novel ways. The result is often the emergence of integrated systems with capabilities that exceed the sum of their individual parts. The mathematical principles underlying system integration reveal why this process can generate such dramatic increases in biological capability. When existing systems are combined, the resulting capabilities can grow exponentially rather than additively. Two systems that each provide modest advantages can create integrated capabilities that provide enormous advantages when combined effectively. This exponential enhancement effect helps explain why some post-extinction innovations have such transformative impacts on subsequent evolutionary history. The integration of photosynthetic and respiratory systems in early eukaryotic cells created capabilities that fundamentally transformed the biosphere. The integration of skeletal, muscular, and nervous systems in early vertebrates created capabilities that opened up entirely new adaptive landscapes for complex, mobile organisms. The fossil record documents numerous examples of such transformative integrations during post-extinction recovery periods. The emergence of complex reef ecosystems after the end Permian extinction involved the integration of biomineralization, photosynthetic symbiosis, and three-dimensional construction capabilities. The diversification of flowering plants after the end Triassic extinction involved the integration of advanced reproductive, defensive, and resource acquisition systems. But perhaps the most important aspect of evolutionary innovation involves its cascading effects on other organisms and ecosystems. When one group evolves a major innovation, it often creates new selective pressures that drive innovation in other groups. These cascading innovation cycles can transform entire biological communities within relatively short geological periods. The evolution of predation provides a classic example of cascading innovation. When some organisms evolved sophisticated hunting capabilities, it created strong selective pressures for defensive innovations in their prey. These defensive innovations then drove further innovations in predatory strategies, creating evolutionary arms races that have been a major driver of biological complexity throughout Earth's history. Many of these innovation cascades appear to have been triggered by the ecological opportunities created by mass extinction events. When extinction eliminates dominant groups, it creates ecological vacancies that can be filled by organisms with novel capabilities. The evolution of these novel capabilities then drives cascading innovations throughout recovering ecosystems. The mathematical models that describe these cascade processes reveal why post-extinction recovery often produces ecosystems that are more complex and diverse than their predecessors. Each innovation creates new ecological opportunities that can be exploited by further innovations. The result is positive feedback loops that drive accelerating increases in biological complexity and diversity. These feedback mechanisms operate at multiple scales and through various biological processes. At the molecular scale, innovations in metabolism create new energy sources that support more complex biological organization. At the cellular scale, innovations in structure and function enable new types of multicellular organization. At the organismal scale, innovations in morphology and behavior create new ecological roles and relationships. The cumulative effects of these multi-scale innovation cascades can fundamentally transform entire biospheres. The Great Oxidation Event, triggered by the evolution of oxygen-producing photosynthesis, created cascading innovations that transformed atmospheric chemistry, ocean chemistry, and the possibilities for complex life. The Cambrian explosion, following several Precambrian extinction events, saw cascading innovations that created most of the major animal body plans that persist today. These transformative innovation cascades continue to operate in modern ecosystems, though they typically occur over much longer timescales than human observation periods. Current biological communities contain the same potential for cascading innovation that has driven past evolutionary transformations. The mechanisms that enabled ancient innovation cascades remain intact and continue to generate new biological capabilities. Understanding these innovation mechanisms provides crucial insights into how biological systems respond to environmental challenges. Rather than being passive victims of environmental change, living systems actively generate innovative solutions that can transform apparent limitations into opportunities for growth and diversification. The creative power of these innovation mechanisms ensures that life's response to environmental challenges will continue to generate new biological possibilities. Each challenge becomes an opportunity for innovation that can create entirely new adaptive landscapes and ecological relationships. The result is an ongoing process of biological creativity that continues to expand the boundaries of what's possible on Earth. This perspective reveals life as fundamentally creative rather than merely adaptive. While adaptation allows organisms to survive in existing environments, innovation allows them to create entirely new types of environments and ecological possibilities. The combination of adaptive and innovative capabilities provides life with extraordinary resilience and creative potential. The mechanisms that drive both adaptation and innovation continue to operate today in every ecosystem, in every population, in every organism. They provide the foundation for continued biological creativity, regardless of what environmental challenges the future might bring. The same processes that transformed past extinction events into opportunities for unprecedented biological innovation remain active and ready to respond to new challenges. The story of life's recovery from mass extinction events ultimately reveals the remarkable creative power that emerges from the interaction between environmental challenge and biological innovation. Rather than simply enduring catastrophic change, life actively transforms that change into fuel for creativity and growth. Each apparent ending becomes a new beginning. Each crisis becomes an opportunity for breakthrough innovation. This transformative power operates through mechanisms that span every level of biological organization, from molecular processes that preserve and reactivate ancient genetic capabilities to ecosystem processes that create new forms of environmental organization. The result is a biological system that becomes more sophisticated, more resilient, and more creative with each challenge it encounters. The implications extend far beyond understanding past events. They reveal fundamental principles about how complex systems respond to challenge and change. These principles suggest that resilience and creativity are not just occasional features of biological systems, but fundamental properties that emerge from the basic organization of life itself. Understanding these principles provides a new perspective on life's future prospects. The same mechanisms that have enabled recovery from every mass extinction in Earth's history continue to operate today. They provide the foundation for continued biological innovation and adaptation, ensuring that life will continue to find creative solutions to whatever challenges the future might present. The creative resilience that has characterized life throughout Earth's history represents one of the most remarkable phenomena in the known universe. It demonstrates that complex systems can not only survive catastrophic disruption, but can use that disruption as a catalyst for innovation and improvement. This capacity to transform destruction into creation, challenge into opportunity, and limitation into possibility represents the essence of life's extraordinary success on our planet. The story continues to unfold around us every day in ways both visible and invisible, as life responds to changing conditions with the same creativity and resilience that has characterized its entire 4.5 billion year journey. The mechanisms that enabled recovery from ancient catastrophes remain active, ensuring that life's greatest innovations may still lie ahead, waiting to emerge from future challenges that will test and ultimately enhance its remarkable capacity for creative resilience. The most extraordinary aspect of this creative resilience may be how it operates through what scientists call evolutionary convergence. Time and again, throughout Earth's history, completely unrelated lineages have independently evolved remarkably similar solutions to survival challenges. This isn't coincidence. It reveals something profound about the underlying logic of biological organization and the predictable ways that life responds to environmental pressures. Consider the evolution of camera eyes, sophisticated visual organs with lenses that can focus light onto photosensitive surfaces. This complex system has evolved independently at least 7 times in completely unrelated animal groups. Vertebrates like ourselves, cephalopods like octopuses, cnidarians like box jellyfish, and several other lineages have all converged on nearly identical solutions to the challenge of high-resolution vision. What makes this convergence particularly remarkable is that it often occurs during post-extinction recovery periods when environmental challenges create strong selective pressures for enhanced sensory capabilities. When ecosystems are rebuilding after catastrophic events, the ability to gather detailed information about environmental conditions provides enormous survival advantages. Multiple lineages independently discover that camera eyes represent an optimal solution to this challenge. The mathematical principles underlying convergent evolution reveal why certain biological solutions emerge repeatedly across different lineages and time periods. When environmental challenges create specific selective pressures, the adaptive landscape develops peaks that correspond to optimal solutions. Multiple lineages exploring this landscape independently discover the same peaks, leading to the evolution of remarkably similar traits in otherwise unrelated organisms. This predictability of convergent solutions provides crucial insights into how life recovers from extinction events. Rather than generating random innovations, post-extinction evolution tends to rediscover optimal solutions to fundamental biological challenges. The result is recovery that not only restores biological diversity, but often improves upon the efficiency and sophistication of pre-extinction solutions. The fossil record documents countless examples of convergent evolution during recovery periods. After the end Permian extinction eliminated most reef-building organisms, completely different groups of marine animals independently evolved the ability to construct complex three-dimensional reef structures. These new reef builders used different biological materials and construction techniques, but they converged on similar architectural solutions that maximized habitat complexity while minimizing material costs. Similarly, the recovery from the end Cretaceous extinction saw multiple mammalian lineages independently evolve large body sizes and herbivorous lifestyles. These convergent giants, from early proboscideans to primitive ungulates, developed remarkably similar digestive systems, locomotory adaptations, and social behaviors despite their independent evolutionary origins. But convergent evolution operates at much more fundamental levels than just morphological similarity. Research has revealed that unrelated organisms often converge on identical molecular solutions to biochemical challenges. The same enzyme structures, metabolic pathways, and regulatory mechanisms appear repeatedly in different lineages facing similar environmental pressures. This molecular convergence is particularly evident in extremophile communities. Organisms living in highly acidic environments have independently evolved nearly identical pH tolerance mechanisms. Those surviving at extreme temperatures have converged on similar heat shock protein systems. Those thriving under intense radiation have developed comparable DNA repair mechanisms. The biochemical solutions to extreme environmental challenges appear to be so optimal that evolution repeatedly rediscovers them. The implications of this molecular convergence extend far beyond individual adaptations. When multiple lineages independently evolve similar biochemical capabilities, they can potentially share those innovations through horizontal gene transfer. This process allows beneficial genetic innovations to spread rapidly between even distantly related organisms, accelerating the pace of evolutionary adaptation during recovery periods. Horizontal gene transfer represents one of evolution's most powerful mechanisms for rapid innovation. Unlike traditional inheritance, where genetic information passes vertically from parents to offspring, horizontal transfer allows organisms to acquire genetic innovations directly from other species. This process is particularly common among microorganisms and can enable rapid adaptation to changing environmental conditions. During post-extinction recovery periods, horizontal gene transfer can play a crucial role in spreading adaptive innovations throughout biological communities. When one lineage evolves a particularly effective solution to an environmental challenge, that solution can potentially be acquired by other lineages through horizontal transfer. The result is accelerated ecosystem recovery, as beneficial innovations spread rapidly through recovering communities. The molecular mechanisms underlying horizontal transfer have become increasingly sophisticated over evolutionary time. Modern organisms possess complex systems for recognizing, acquiring, and integrating foreign genetic material. These systems allow them to rapidly incorporate beneficial innovations while filtering out potentially harmful genetic elements. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of horizontal gene transfer involves its role in creating entirely new types of organisms through symbiotic integration. When different species enter into close partnerships, they can eventually exchange so much genetic material that they effectively merge into single integrated organisms. This process has been responsible for some of the most important evolutionary innovations in Earth's history. The evolution of eukaryotic cells, through the symbiotic integration of bacterial partners, represents one of the most transformative events in biological history. The mitochondria that power animal cells, and the chloroplasts that enable plant photosynthesis, both originated as independent bacteria that were incorporated into larger host cells. This symbiotic merger created entirely new types of cellular organization that formed the foundation for all complex life. Similar symbiotic mergers continue to occur today and appear to be particularly common during periods of environmental stress. When resources become scarce and environmental conditions are challenging, organisms that can form beneficial partnerships gain significant advantages. These partnerships can eventually lead to permanent genetic integration, creating new types of organisms with capabilities that exceed what either partner could achieve independently. The mathematical models that describe symbiotic integration reveal why this process can generate such dramatic evolutionary innovations. When two organisms with complementary capabilities merge, the resulting integrated system can access adaptive possibilities that were unavailable to either partner alone. The expansion of adaptive landscape through symbiotic integration can create entirely new evolutionary trajectories. This landscape expansion through partnership formation helps explain why post-extinction periods often see the emergence of fundamentally new types of biological organization. Environmental disruption creates opportunities for novel partnerships between previously independent lineages. These partnerships can evolve into permanent integrations that establish new evolutionary trajectories. The fossil record provides evidence for major symbiotic innovations during several post-extinction recovery periods. The emergence of lichen partnerships between fungi and algae appears to have been crucial for early terrestrial colonization. The evolution of mycorrhizal associations between plants and fungi enabled the development of complex terrestrial ecosystems. The formation of photosynthetic partnerships in marine organisms contributed to the recovery of ocean productivity after several major extinction events. But symbiotic innovation extends beyond simple two-partner relationships. Many modern organisms exist as complex communities of multiple symbiotic partners, each contributing specialized capabilities to the integrated system. These multi-partner symbioses can achieve levels of efficiency and sophistication that far exceed what any individual organism could accomplish. The human microbiome provides a familiar example of multi-partner symbiosis. Our bodies host thousands of species of bacteria, archaea, fungi, and other microorganisms that contribute essential functions to our physiology. These microbial partners help digest food, synthesize vitamins, regulate immune function, and perform countless other tasks that are crucial for human health. Similar multi-partner systems characterize most complex organisms and many ecosystems. Coral reefs represent integrated communities of animals, plants, bacteria, and other organisms that function as single coordinated systems. Forest ecosystems involve complex networks of symbiotic relationships between trees, fungi, bacteria, and countless other organisms. These integrated communities achieve levels of productivity and resilience that far exceed what any individual component could accomplish. The evolution of these complex symbiotic systems appears to be accelerated during post-extinction recovery periods when environmental challenges favor cooperative solutions over competitive ones. When resources are scarce and conditions are harsh, organisms that can form beneficial partnerships gain enormous advantages. These partnerships can then evolve into increasingly sophisticated integrated systems. The emergence of complex symbiotic communities during recovery periods contributes to the enhanced resilience that characterizes post-extinction ecosystems. Integrated communities with multiple redundant functions are much more stable than simple communities based on competitive relationships. When one component of an integrated system faces challenges, other components can provide support that maintains overall system stability. This enhanced stability through symbiotic integration helps explain why post-extinction ecosystems often become more resilient than their predecessors. Each extinction recovery cycle tends to promote the evolution of more sophisticated cooperative relationships that enhance community stability. The cumulative effect is increasing ecosystem resilience over geological time. But the most profound implication of symbiotic innovation may be how it reveals the fundamental cooperative nature of biological organization. While competition certainly plays important roles in evolution, the most dramatic evolutionary innovations often involve the formation of cooperative partnerships between previously independent entities. Life's greatest achievements represent successful collaborations rather than competitive victories. This cooperative foundation of biological innovation provides crucial insights into how ecosystems recover from catastrophic disturbance. Recovery isn't primarily about individual species competing for resources in damaged environments. It's about the formation of new cooperative relationships that enhance the efficiency and resilience of entire communities. The mechanisms that promote cooperative innovation continue to operate in modern ecosystems. Every biological community contains organisms that are actively forming new partnerships and exploring novel forms of cooperation. These ongoing collaborative innovations provide the foundation for continued ecosystem development and enhanced resilience. Understanding the cooperative basis of biological innovation transforms how we think about life's response to environmental challenges. Rather than viewing environmental stress as something that promotes competition and conflict, we can recognize it as a driver of cooperative innovation. The greatest environmental challenges often catalyze the formation of the most sophisticated cooperative solutions. This perspective reveals environmental challenges not as threats to be endured, but as opportunities for breakthrough innovations in biological cooperation. Each crisis becomes a catalyst for the evolution of new forms of partnership that enhance life's capacity for resilience and adaptation. The result is a biological system that becomes increasingly cooperative and integrated over time. The cooperative innovations that emerge from environmental challenges often transcend simple survival strategies to create entirely new possibilities for biological organization. The partnerships formed during crisis periods frequently evolve into permanent relationships that establish new evolutionary trajectories and ecological possibilities. These trajectory-establishing innovations help explain why recovery from mass extinction events consistently produces biological communities that are more sophisticated than their predecessors. Each crisis drives the formation of cooperative relationships that enhance the efficiency and capabilities of biological systems. The cumulative effect is progressive improvement in the performance and resilience of life on Earth. The ongoing nature of cooperative innovation ensures that life's capacity for resilience and adaptation continues to grow. Every environmental challenge provides opportunities for the formation of new partnerships and the evolution of more sophisticated cooperative relationships. The mechanisms that drive this cooperative innovation remain active in modern ecosystems, providing the foundation for continued biological advancement. This continuous cooperative innovation represents one of life's most remarkable characteristics. Rather than being limited by existing biological capabilities, life actively develops new capabilities through the formation of novel partnerships. Each new cooperative relationship expands the boundaries of what's possible and creates opportunities for further innovation. The creative power of cooperative innovation operates at every level of biological organization, from molecular partnerships between different proteins to ecosystem-level partnerships between different species. This multi-level cooperation creates nested hierarchies of mutually supportive relationships that enhance the stability and resilience of entire biological systems. Understanding these cooperative mechanisms provides profound insights into the fundamental nature of life on Earth. Life isn't just a collection of individual organisms competing for survival. It's an integrated system of cooperative relationships that actively generates new possibilities for growth and development. The challenges that threaten individual components often strengthen the cooperative bonds that hold the entire system together. This cooperative foundation of biological organization ensures that life's response to environmental challenges will continue to generate innovative solutions. The same mechanisms that have transformed past crises into opportunities for cooperative breakthrough continue to operate today, providing the biological foundation for continued resilience and adaptation in an uncertain future. The story of life's recovery from mass extinction reveals cooperation as the fundamental driver of biological innovation and resilience. Through billions of years of environmental challenges, life has repeatedly demonstrated that its greatest achievements emerge not from competition, but from the formation of increasingly sophisticated cooperative relationships that transform apparent limitations into opportunities for unprecedented growth and development. Growth and development. The story of cooperative innovation reveals something even more profound about life's resilience mechanisms. What emerges from studying billions of years of extinction and recovery isn't just a collection of survival strategies, but evidence of what scientists call emergent intelligence. This doesn't mean consciousness in the way we typically understand it, but rather the capacity for biological systems to collectively solve problems that no individual organism could address alone. Consider how mycorrhizal networks operate in forest ecosystems. Individual trees connect through underground fungal networks that span entire forests, creating communication systems that can share resources, information, and chemical signals across vast distances. When one area of forest faces drought, disease, or nutrient deficiency, other connected areas can provide support through these networks. The forest essentially functions as a single problem-solving entity that can respond to challenges with coordination that exceeds what any individual tree could achieve. This collective intelligence becomes particularly evident during ecosystem recovery periods. When forests are damaged by fire, disease, or other disturbances, the surviving mycorrhizal networks can coordinate recovery efforts across the entire system. Trees in undamaged areas increase their production of nutrients and chemical signals that support regrowth in damaged zones. The network prioritizes resource allocation to areas where recovery efforts will be most effective. Essentially, the forest diagnoses its own injuries and directs its own healing process. Similar collective intelligence emerges in marine ecosystems during recovery from major disturbances. Coral reef systems that survive bleaching events or other catastrophes often exhibit coordinated responses that enhance community-wide recovery. Surviving coral colonies increase their production of chemical signals that attract beneficial symbiotic algae and fish species. Fish communities adjust their feeding behaviors to promote the growth of beneficial algae while controlling harmful species. The entire reef system reorganizes itself to optimize conditions for recovery. The mathematical principles underlying these collective intelligence phenomena reveal why they're so effective at promoting ecosystem recovery. When individual components of a system can share information and coordinate their responses, the system can solve complex problems that would overwhelm any individual component. The collective processing power of the entire system exceeds the sum of its individual parts. This emergent intelligence helps explain why post-extinction ecosystems often develop capabilities that seem almost impossibly sophisticated. Recovery isn't just about individual species adapting to changed conditions. It's about entire biological communities developing collective intelligence that enables them to actively manage their own recovery and development processes. The fossil record provides evidence for collective intelligence operating during major recovery periods throughout Earth's history. The rapid development of complex reef systems after extinction events suggests coordination between different types of organisms that exceeds what would be expected from purely competitive interactions. The synchronized evolution of flowering plants and pollinating insects indicates communication and coordination mechanisms that enabled co-evolutionary innovation. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of biological collective intelligence involves its capacity for learning and memory at the ecosystem level. Modern research has revealed that biological communities can store information about past environmental challenges and use that information to respond more effectively to future disturbances. This ecosystem-level memory operates through multiple mechanisms that span different types of organisms and biological processes. Some plants maintain chemical memories of past pest attacks that enhance their ability to respond to future threats. These memories can persist for years and can even be transmitted to offspring through epigenetic mechanisms. When similar threats appear, plants with these memories can mount faster and more effective defensive responses than those without prior experience. Microbial communities also exhibit sophisticated memory mechanisms. Soil bacterial communities that have experienced certain types of environmental stress develop enhanced resistance to similar future stresses. These communities can maintain stress resistance capabilities for decades, even when the original stressful conditions are no longer present. When familiar stresses reappear, the communities can activate appropriate responses almost immediately. The integration of these individual memory systems creates ecosystem-level memory capabilities that enhance community resilience. Ecosystems that have experienced and recovered from major disturbances often respond more effectively to similar future challenges. They've essentially learned from their recovery experiences and developed enhanced capabilities for managing future crises. This learning capacity helps explain why ecosystems that have survived multiple extinction events often become remarkably resilient. Each recovery experience adds to the collective memory of the system, enhancing its ability to respond to future challenges. The cumulative effect is the development of biological communities that become increasingly sophisticated at managing environmental stress and promoting their own recovery. The mechanisms underlying ecosystem learning involve complex interactions between genetic, epigenetic, and ecological processes. Individual organisms that survive stressful experiences often develop enhanced stress response capabilities that can be transmitted to their offspring. These enhanced capabilities spread through populations and become integrated into community-level response systems. But ecosystem learning extends beyond simple stress responses to encompass sophisticated problem-solving capabilities. Biological communities that face novel environmental challenges often develop innovative solutions through collective exploration of different response strategies. Successful strategies are retained and refined, while unsuccessful ones are abandoned. Over time, communities develop increasingly effective approaches to environmental problem-solving. The speed at which ecosystem learning can occur is truly remarkable. While genetic adaptation typically requires many generations, ecosystem learning can happen within single lifetimes. Communities can develop effective responses to novel challenges within years or even months when collective intelligence mechanisms are operating effectively. This rapid learning capability provides biological systems with extraordinary flexibility for responding to environmental challenges. Rather than being limited to pre-existing adaptations, communities can actively develop new capabilities when faced with novel situations. This capacity for real-time adaptation represents one of life's most powerful resilience mechanisms. Modern ecosystems continue to demonstrate these learning capabilities in response to current environmental challenges. Forest communities facing novel pest outbreaks often develop effective defensive strategies within a few years. Marine communities exposed to new pollutants frequently evolve detoxification mechanisms that spread rapidly through affected populations. Urban ecosystems regularly develop innovative approaches to surviving in artificial environments that have no natural precedent. The consistency with which biological systems develop these learning capabilities suggests that ecosystem intelligence is a fundamental property of life, rather than an occasional emergent phenomenon. The mechanisms that enable collective learning appear to be built into the basic organization of biological communities. They operate automatically when environmental challenges create the appropriate conditions. Understanding ecosystem intelligence provides crucial insights into how biological systems might respond to future environmental challenges. Rather than being passive victims of environmental change, biological communities actively develop intelligence capabilities that enhance their ability to manage and adapt to changing conditions. These intelligence systems continue to evolve and improve, suggesting that biological resilience will continue to increase over time. The implications extend far beyond ecology and evolution. They suggest that intelligence and problem-solving capability are not limited to individual organisms with nervous systems. Instead, these capabilities can emerge from the collective interactions of simpler components organized into sufficiently complex systems. This perspective opens up entirely new ways of thinking about intelligence, consciousness, and the capacity for creative problem-solving. The collective intelligence that emerges from biological communities represents one of evolution's most elegant solutions to the challenge of surviving in unpredictable environments. Rather than trying to anticipate all possible future challenges, life has developed systems that can learn and adapt in real time as new challenges emerge. This approach provides much greater flexibility than pre-programmed responses to specific threats. The creative power of collective intelligence ensures that biological systems will continue to develop new capabilities for responding to environmental challenges. Each new challenge becomes an opportunity for biological communities to enhance their intelligence and problem-solving capabilities. The result is an ongoing process of intelligence evolution that continues to expand life's capacity for resilience and adaptation. This perspective reveals life as fundamentally intelligent rather than merely adaptive, while adaptation allows organisms to respond to known challenges. Intelligence allows biological systems to develop novel solutions to unprecedented problems. The combination of adaptive and intelligent capabilities provides life with extraordinary flexibility for navigating an uncertain future. The mechanisms that generate biological intelligence continue to operate in every ecosystem on Earth. They provide the foundation for continued development of enhanced problem-solving capabilities, regardless of what challenges the future might present. The same processes that have enabled life to survive every crisis in Earth's history remain active and ready to respond to new challenges with increasing sophistication and effectiveness. The story of ecosystem intelligence during post-extinction recovery reveals life as an active, creative force that doesn't just respond to environmental challenges, but actively transforms those challenges into opportunities for enhanced intelligence and capability. Each crisis becomes a catalyst for the development of more sophisticated collective intelligence systems that enhance life's capacity for managing future challenges. This ongoing intelligence evolution represents one of life's most remarkable achievements. Through billions of years of environmental challenges, biological systems have gradually developed collective intelligence capabilities that rival and often exceed the problem-solving abilities of individual intelligent organisms. These intelligent systems continue to evolve and improve, ensuring that life's capacity for creative problem-solving will continue to grow. So there you have it. 4.5 billion years of catastrophe, recovery, and innovation. 5 major mass extinctions that should have ended everything, yet here we are, surrounded by more diversity and complexity than Earth has ever known. Every tree you see, every bird that flies overhead, every microbe in the soil beneath your feet carries within its cells the accumulated wisdom of countless extinction recovery cycles. They're all living proof that life doesn't just endure the impossible. It transforms the impossible into the inevitable, one challenge at a time. The mechanisms that drove past recoveries are still operating right now, still innovating, still preparing for whatever the future might bring. Life's greatest achievements aren't behind us. They're still being written.